Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a genuinely chilling supernatural story today. It's this wild mix of modern corporate greed clashing with ancient, totally unforgiving folklore. We're going to look at a billionaire who literally thought his money could buy anything, even the sacred forces of nature, and the absolutely terrifying things that happen when you push those forces too far. So buckle up, because this is a masterclass in atmospheric horror and environmental caution. Let's get right into it.
So our story plunges us straight into a midnight highway horror scene. Picture this, right? You've got Kuber Singanaya, this mega-wealthy billionaire builder, and he's just speeding down a pitch-dark road in his 5.5 crore luxury black car. He's drunk, puffing on a cigar, just being completely reckless. Out of nowhere, an old man appears right in the middle of the road. Kuber slams on the brakes, but it is way too late. The car violently strikes the old man and then crashes straight into a tree. Bleeding and totally dazed, Kuber looks up and, get this, the old man is just sitting there on the asphalt, perfectly fine. He's actually laughing at him, and he delivers this chilling warning: you won't survive. Your deeds won't spare you. And guys, it gets worse. Suddenly, the old man's face just contorts, he starts barking like a dog, and literally summons a vicious pack of wild dogs from the nearby forest. They swarm Kuber, tearing into him while he screams for his life. He manages to break free, stumbles onto the road, and boom, is instantly hit by a massive truck.
But then, Kuber's eyes snap open. He's screaming, begging his son to save him. But as he looks around the room, there are no dogs, there's no blood. There is literally not a single scratch on his body. He's lying in this sterile white bed, and his son Robin, along with his best friend Dr. Sanjay, are just staring at him, looking deeply concerned. The immediate suspense here is just incredible, because Kuber hasn't just woken up from some bad nightmare. He has actually been locked inside a mental hospital for an entire month. His mind is completely shattered, yet physically he's totally fine. In fact, his mental state is so far gone that Dr. Sanjay has just scheduled him for severe shock therapy.
Section 1. The Hallucination and the Guardian.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this next scene is an absolute visual nightmare. Later that same evening, Kabir is staring out his hospital window, which is completely broken. And who does he see staring right back at him from the other side of the glass? The old man from the so-called nightmare. Kabir is instantly paralyzed by this guy's gaze. He can't scream, can't call for help. The old man just laughs and ruthlessly mocks him, saying, "Gather all your money and power and tell them to cure your madness." But then the old man does the impossible. He steps away from the window and magically merges into a tiny potted plant sitting right there inside Kabir's hospital room. Instantly, the plant just starts growing at a monstrous rate. These thick, creeping vines shoot out of the pod, slithering across the floor, crawling up Kabir's bed, and wrapping incredibly tight around his neck. As Kabir is choking and gasping for air, the old man's face reappears in the vines and finally drops the big reveal. He tells Kabir, "I am the Rakhandar."
Section 2. Unveiling the myth. Who is the Rakhandar?
To really understand what's happening to Kuber here, we need to take a quick step back from that terrifying hospital room and explore the fascinating, deeply rooted ancient folklore the old man just brought up. So the crucial point is that in local mythology, it's widely believed that no massive forest stands alone. Every ancient woodland is fiercely protected by an unseen, incredibly powerful force, the Rakhandar. This guardian acts as a watchman. He sees every single step taken into the woods, hears every swing of an axe. If you enter with respect, the forest provides. But if you walk in with a greedy, destructive heart, the Rakhandar doesn't just watch. He enforces the boundaries, and his punishments are absolute and terrifying.
Now, what is truly fascinating here is how universal this concept actually is across different regions. While this specific guardian calls himself Rakhandar, the entity goes by a lot of different names depending on the local context. In general forests, people might pray to Vandevta or Vandevi, the gods and goddesses of the woods. In specific tribal villages, they might look to the Gram Rakshak or Darti Devi, basically the earth goddess. And for outsiders who only really feel the scary, imposing presence of the woods, these guardians are often just written off as ghosts or vengeful spirits. But regardless of what name they use, their sole purpose is exactly the same: protecting the ancient forest from human greed.
Section 3. Kuber's greed and escalating sins. So how exactly did a billionaire city builder end up cursed by a forest guardian? Well, 100. That is the number that started it all. Let's unravel the mystery behind his madness by looking at what actually brought him face to face with the Rakhandar. Kuber Singhania had set his sights on a 100-acre stretch of sacred, ancient forest. Now, this wasn't just any plot of land. It was packed with rare, expensive timber and was rumored to be sitting right on top of a literal gold mine of mineral resources. Kuber, being a guy who was used to just buying whatever he wanted, simply waltzed in and offered massive piles of cash to the innocent tribal people who had lived there for centuries. But, to his absolute shock, they flat out refused his money.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of our story. On one side, you've got Kuber Singhania, fueled entirely by money, political power, and a massive ego. I mean, the guy literally built 90% of his city. He views the entire world strictly in terms of property to be acquired. On the other side, you have the tribal people. They are fueled by centuries of devotion, living in total harmony with nature and carrying a deep ancestral respect for the Rakhandar. Kuber's modern arrogance fundamentally just could not comprehend their primal ancient loyalty. So when paper money didn't work, Kuber's bruised ego took the wheel.
This timeline tracks his path of no return. When that cash offer on day 1 was rejected, Kuber decided to just force them out. By day 15, his men were sneaking in at night, literally poisoning the tribal's livestock. By day 30, he was orchestrating these small forest fires, trying to scare the locals into thinking their forest gods had completely abandoned them. But you know what? The tribal still wouldn't leave. So on day 45, Kuber committed the ultimate, unforgivable sin. He sent his men to steal the physical, sacred idol of the Rakhandar right from beneath the ancient trees, and he threw it into a body of water to drown it. He honestly thought he was just destroying a piece of stone to break their morale. But that very night, that's when the hallucinations began. That act of supreme disrespect is what directly triggered his terrifying descent into madness.
Section 4. The Climax. Nature's Retribution. Exactly 2 days after Kuber was nearly choked by those hallucinated vines, the real horror kicks in. Late at night, the sterile hospital room undergoes this completely terrifying transformation. First, the power just completely cuts out. The constant beep of the medical machines dies, leaving this suffocating, heavy silence. Second, a sudden, freezing cold wind blows through the window carrying the heavy, unmistakable smell of wet earth and rotting leaves. Third, right before Kuber's eyes, the white hospital walls literally begin to crack, pushing outward as thick tree bark bursts through the plaster. The room is physically becoming the forest. And finally, a massive fissure splits the floor wide open, and from that dark crack in the earth, the Rakhandar pulls himself out, no longer looking like an old man, but as this towering entity with skin like hard bark, limbs like twisted roots, and eyes just burning with centuries of ancient fury.
Paralyzed by absolute terror, weeping, Kuber finally breaks. He's begging for his life. He screams out that he'll return the 100 acres, promises to give the tribal people all his money. He is desperately trying to buy his way out of death, but the Rakhandar simply looks down at him, his voice echoing like grinding stones, and delivers this chilling line: "The forest does not take alms."
Because the Guardian doesn't just kill, right? He reclaims. Suddenly, hundreds of thick, violent roots burst up from the cracked floor. They wrap around Kuber's legs, crushing them. As he tries to scream, roots force their way down his throat, silencing him forever. The roots just drag him violently, mercilessly deep underground. In seconds, the earth seals itself back up perfectly. The only thing left in the middle of the hospital floor is a single tiny green sapling. The next morning, doctors open the door to find a completely empty room. With absolutely no explanation, no forced entry, and no body, Kuber Singhania is simply classified in his medical file as mysteriously missing.
Section 5. The Final Lesson. A Cycle Unbroken. Let's move to and see how this builds into the aftermath of Kuber's disappearance.
You would really think the bizarre, completely unexplained disappearance of a billionaire would serve as a giant red warning sign. But greed is a stubborn disease. Exactly 1 year after Kuber vanished, his arrogant son Robin decided to finish exactly what his father started. He marched right back to that same 100-acre forest to claim it. But the Rakhandar scares absolutely no one who looks upon the woods with greedy eyes. Robin didn't even make it to a hospital bed. He was found the very next day, deep in the woods, torn to pieces. The police reports and local authorities conveniently blamed it on a tragic wild animal attack. But the local tribal people? Oh, they knew the truth. They knew for a fact it was the Rakhandar's wrath continuing to protect the land.
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought. While the Rakhandar is a figure of terrifying folklore, the core message of this story is glaringly real for us. As we pave over green spaces, bulldoze ancient woods, and prioritize endless profit over ecological preservation, we really have to ask ourselves, in our relentless pursuit of wealth and expansion, are we committing the exact same sins against nature today? And if we are, what unseen boundaries have we already crossed? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating, chilling tale with me today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you in the next explainer.